Hey everyone, welcome to LipRippin Podcast. I'm your host, Ravi N, aka Ravasaurus. Thanks so much for joining me, I appreciate it. How you guys doing? I guess you're doing good. Awesome. Good of you guys to join me. Thanks for coming back as per usual. Here to talk to you today on LipRippin Podcast. Actually, not necessarily about a particular fishing trip or particular fishing story, I guess you could say. But I wanted to talk to you about a fella that I have mentioned in past episodes, a good friend of mine, John The Hermit Bozak, because as much as these podcasts are about fishing, they're also about being in the woods and being in nature and being in the bush. And there is no better bushman, an example of a bushman, than John The Hermit Bozak. And he's a dear friend of mine whom some of you have had the pleasure of meeting, and displeasure of meeting. Some of you, I don't know many of you that don't like John Boy, but he's certainly an acquired taste, that old bastard. I'm just having a morning coffee here, and I've been thinking of my old bud there, John, and I thought, since there's a lot of you that are listening, that I should tell you a story that he told me about how he decided to move to the Pickerel River and just be a bushman for the rest of his life. And I think he said something along the lines of, my first wife cheated on me, so I left her. My second wife cheated on me, so I left her. My third wife wouldn't cheat on me, so I left her. And I think he might have had 3 wives before the age of 50. I think he was around 49 years old, and he was working at the Firestone plant in Hamilton. Grew up in Grimsby, Ontario, and lived in Stony Creek, or was born in Stony Creek and grew up in Grimsby, something like that. But one of the greatest dudes of all time, and the baddest bushman ever. So in 1994, he decided, you know what is it gonna take for me to live up at the cottage? His father had built a cottage in the 70s, or maybe even before that, in the 40s or 50s or some shit, up on the Picky. And his cottage was in a little tiny bay they actually called Hermit Bay, because of John The Hermit Bozak. In a little tiny bay behind my cottage. And so we were really good friends for a lot of years. But in 94, he decided, what the fuck is it going to take for me to live up at the river, right? Because he had some skills. He was smart and good, very good mechanic, very smart man. But I think he liked the sauce. He liked the booze, and he was a loner. He was a hermit, even back then. And so he's like, fuck it, I'm going to move to the bush. So he did some budgeting and some calculations, and he wasn't a rich man by any means. He had his dad's old wooden cabin there, and he was willing to just say fuck it and go live there forever at the age of like 49. So I think he did some minor math and what he would need with the clothes on his back and whatever gear he had and the car that he had. he knew there was a tinny up there with an old motor, and he knew he's a mechanic, so he's like, he can get around, and he could maybe fix people's motors or whatever, and get a couple bucks here and there. So he did the math, and he ended up coming literally $2 short. And I guess in the 90s, as you guys know, $2 and $5 and $10, that's big money, It's good money, And he was like, fuck it, I guess this week is not the week that I'm gonna quit my job and move up north, because I'm shy of it, So he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna walk to the store, I'm gonna get a pack of butts. So he's walking in the store in Hamilton, going to get a pack of cigarettes. And he's walking across the street, and he goes, sure enough, Rav, doesn't a fucking $2 bill fucking float through the sky and bang, stick to the side of my fucking leg, he says to me. And I go, I'm getting chills even talking about it right now. And I go, what the fuck? And he goes, and I fucking turned around, and I got in my fucking car, and I drove up to the Pickerel River. And that was that. And he told me that story, and I was like, dude, that's pretty fucking awesome. And when he told me that, I was like, mid-20s in university, I was like, fucking right. And he came up in 94 to the Pickerel River, and he lived in that fucking cottage by himself, with no power, no electricity, no running water, until about, I think, 2010 he might have gotten power, but he lived there for a shitload of years with no power, no running water, all fucking year long, 12 months out of the goddamn year. John the Hermit Bozak lived on the Pickerel River. And I don't give a shit who listens to this podcast moving forward. That man is an absolute legend. Put some respect on his name. If you're ever up on the river and you're ever in Woodlands Bay or Hermit's Bay, you better know John Boy had been running up and down that goddamn river when you guys were in diapers, or when you weren't even a thought. That bushman was up there doing what he needed to do. And I love John Boy, and I miss him greatly. Rest in peace to one of the baddest bushmen on planet Earth that has ever been seen or known to existence. And I don't have anything more to say about that at this juncture, but yeah, I miss you, John Boy. Can't wait to go for another boat ride with you down the road, buddy. Anyways, guys, thanks for joining me on another episode of LipRippin Podcast. One day I'll tell you the rest of the story, but that's it. John Boy. See you soon.